So I want to welcome you to the South Pasadena City Council Candidate Forum. And again, we want to thank Chamber of Commerce and VISPA and the candidates and all of you for participating. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Pasadena area, which includes South Pasadena as one of the 13 communities in the San Gabriel Valley that we serve. And our charter is to promote an informed and involved electorate. And we do this through education and advocacy. We study and we act on public policy issues, but we never endorse or support candidates or parties. And we assist in forums like this as part of our voter service program. So in the November 5th election here, there are 5 candidates for 3 seats on the city council, and it's a term of 4 years. Because the candidate for council seat number 3, John Primuth, is running unopposed, he will not be participating in this panel discussion as part of the policy. However, we have invited him to make a brief statement about his candidacy and himself. And so I would like to turn this over to John at this point.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say that it's a privilege for me to be on the ballot for District 3 City Council. I've loved so much of the last almost 4 years on the City Council. Looking forward to serve the community. I love this community and I want to preserve what makes it unique. Everything from small towns to our artistic uniqueness, our values for education, and we have many challenging trends. And as we look ahead, the council will be bringing in a new city manager to lead and rebuild our departments and improve our services. And I understand that financial reporting is a big issue and we do need to focus on. It's critical that our new city manager understand the value that our community places on transparency, respect, and collaboration with the community. We are at a crossroads with our state-approved housing element, the plan for new housing, and I believe, Measure SP represents the best solution to the state's housing mandate. Our city is brimming with opportunities to attract new businesses, develop a new community center, improve our infrastructure and operations. We also have challenges, staff morale, vacancies. We have a need for leadership. We need to rebuild some departments. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the community as the council strives to meet these challenges. If I could make one quick public service announcement. As you go through the election, sometimes it's difficult to know where you are, what district you're in. And if you download the app, then if you don't have the app, get the app, and you can, with a quick button, see all the maps for the district. So you can help out your neighbors, you can help out your friends, you can help out and that way you won't be misunderstanding where you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so to start off, I would like to introduce the rest of the League of Women Voters team. In addition to myself, we've got Hester Bell, who's in the front row, and she's our timekeeper. And then we have Susan Sosin and Jean Unago down here as serving as question sorters. So I'm not going to go over the rules for the forum. They have been agreed to in advance by the candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement about themselves and their candidacy. And they will be speaking in order of numbers that they drew right before the forum began. The timekeeper will keep the candidates informed of the time remaining. She'll hold up like a 30-second and then stop card. Once the candidate's time is up, he or she should conclude their statement as quickly as possible. When the opening statements are completed, candidates will begin answering questions. Only written questions will be accepted, and look for the runners around the room here for cards and pencils, and they'll take them up here to the question sorters. The following rules apply to all the questions. They must be in the form of a question and not a statement. They may be directed at one candidate or all, but we will reserve the option to allow all the candidates to answer. There will be no rebuttals. Questions must deal with the issues of the election. There will be no personal references or attacks allowed. And all questions asked or unasked remain properly closed. We never give them to the press or any other third parties. And please note that question sorters, what they're doing is they combine duplicates. They may broaden one that is specifically addressed to a single candidate, and they will eliminate any that are attacks or personal questions. If you feel that your question has been misinterpreted, feel free to submit another. Due to time limitations, not every question gets asked, but if at the end you feel your question was not asked, feel free to talk with the candidates afterwards personally. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, and we're going to rotate, so each question, different person is going to talk, so not everybody gets to start answer the question first. At about 8:20, we'll terminate the question period, and candidates will do their closing statements, and again, those are going to be 1 minute, and they'll be done in reverse order from the opening statements. And that will conclude remarks, and there will be no rebuttals. And so finally, just want to say that league policy prohibits any kind of political display like signs and t-shirts in the forum room. There's a table outside for candidates to put their literature. And also, as a courtesy to the candidates, we ask that you take a moment to silence your cell phones. So if there's no questions, the first candidate to give their opening statement will be Mr. Ferguson.
Well, Mr. Ferguson was turned on the mic. Hi, my name is Amari Ferguson. I'm running for city council because I'm committed to seeing our community thrive. As a parent of 3 young children, I care deeply about building a sustainable future for South Pasadena. With my engineering background, I'm skilled at breaking down complex issues and encouraging community participation through real action. Whether it's fixing roads, managing our budget, improving the water systems, or updating zoning, I bring a transparent, consensus-driven approach to solve these challenges. My platform is built on responsive leadership, resilient infrastructure, and nurturing community. I believe in a government that listens and takes action. Together, we can protect what makes South Pasadena special: our diversity, small town charm, and strong sense of community. Let's build a city that works for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Rossi.
Hi, my name is Sheila Rossi. I'm running to refocus our city operations and needs on the community. Several factors led me to run for council. In 2018, I watched in horror as our city misused the powers of the government against a single mom harmed by the city's negligence. As I dug into the case, I found a tangled web of dysfunction. The single mom was simply the canary in the coal mine. In 2022, I was gutted by the Dobbs decision, which allowed for the bounty hunting of women. I felt like I had not done enough to defend democracy. As an Iranian American woman who was born in Iran and experienced both the revolution and the aftermath of modesty police at gunpoint, I share a unique understanding of how fragile our rights and democracy are and how the world can change overnight if we don't take these threats seriously. Later, riots broke out in Iran where I watched teenagers dying in the streets fighting for the freedoms their grandparents had lost. I knew then I needed to do everything in my power to defend democracy here for my children's generation and the generations after. To defend democracy, we must begin at the local level, ensuring our government is transparent, accountable, and focuses on the needs of the people.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder.
Good evening. When I was elected in November 2020, I ran to improve our city. I wanted to improve our streets, make them safer, and to bring fiscal stability and responsible growth to the place I've called home for over 30 years. I spearheaded significant improvements with the collaboration of my esteemed council. First, in February 2024, the city had a deficit of 3.7 million, up from the previous year of 2.1 million. With decisive leadership, we managed to turn it around with a surplus of 1.08 million and a healthy reserves of 50% to amounting to 100 million. We continue to improve and stabilize our finance department. Second, we are moving with a purpose with our implementation of a citywide plan for street maintenance and repairs in conjunction with water and sewer pipe replacement. As we continue to improve streets with safer design
Thank
for people walking,
Thank you,
biking, and driving. Thank you.
thank you. And Mr. Lu.
First, I'd like to thank our manager, and everyone for being here tonight. My name is Charlie Gu, engineer, public safety commissioner. My wife and I moved into the city 21 years ago for our two children to attend the South Pasadena public school. Now, we live together with my mother-in-law and my mom. I'm running because I believe in the potential of South Pasadena. Throughout my life, I will consistently bring people together to solve complex problems, from helping a local startup going public in NASDAQ to restore historical house which has divided our city for over 20 years. I always find practical solutions. I lead an engineering department with $8 million projects in Fortune 500 companies. I also chair multiple institutional community organizations. I know how to work together to get things done. Let's make positive change together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's start off with, how can city government ensure transparency and improve communications with residents? And we'll start with Ms. Rossi.
So I think transparency and communications has been actually a major problem for the last 7 years. Our city has been plagued with issues with public records requests, and one of the reasons that we have Measure SP on the ballot today is because the city failed to respond to public records requests for 2 years. A lot of the challenges I think we've seen has been a feeling of disengagement from the community. And one of the things I'd like to do is bring the deliberation back to the dais and make sure that all the communications are public and as much as possible. So there's been a lot of things that have been done in closed sessions that actually weren't supposed to be as well. I'd like to strengthen the commissions and really have a true engagement on the parts of the commissions and make sure that they're having their voice in. And I want to make sure we have community forums, especially as we're planning for major change in the community. This is major change, and we need to make sure that our community is on board and is part of the discussions. And I want to make sure we have that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder.
Yes, right now, the public records request, acts and, the backlog was already resolved. We have, a problem with the turnover, of staff, but I think the city council, this present city council is very progressive. We are listening to the residents and also, giving voice to the commissions, that are acting as advisory bodies to all of us. We have engaged a lot of community functions with the residents, and we listen to the residents to make an informed decision. So the transparency has been improved since the previous city councils. And we have always had an open communication, line of communication. And under my leadership as mayor, I've engaged on communication with the residents of the city.
Thank you. And I would like to ask that you reserve your applause until the end, because that just takes time away from everybody. So everybody can clap that. Okay, so Mr. Lu, transparency.
Transparency and community engagement are essential to the quality of this data. Here are a few ways to improve enhanced effort. One, salary foundation for the city software ensure city service and decision-making process are open and city participate for all the ready. Two, they recognize some of who still prefer face-to-face communication, having ensured that for myself or city leaders will be available for in-person interaction. We will success or direct outreach instead of outsource to a third party service. I believe the primary role of the council is to engage and understand the department, the taxation, and the citizen, not with the people operation. In the decision making process, this is the action, I think, in the authority, always prioritize. I mean, they can open door policy and always prioritize needs, voice.
Okay, thank you. Now, before your glove,
We get to the mics.
Yes.
Please.
make sure you're close to the mic. Okay, and Mr. Ferguson, finally, transparency.
Yeah, you might repeat the question?
Yes, the question is, how can city government ensure transparency and improve communications with residents?
Thank you for repeating it. One of the key platforms of my campaign is responsive leadership, and that really starts with transparency. What we need to be able to do is we need to be able to build off the strength of the voices of our community. One of the things that's very important as far as that is building consensus amongst our community. So having communication that exists in an open manner that encourages the community to engage and provide their wealth of knowledge. What I would like to see as a council person is the ability to not only receive input, but define processes. Making sure that we as a community are not just seeking immediate short-term solutions, but building processes that allow us to solve problems going forward.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, it's already been mentioned a little bit, but question is, the city's finance department has been a source of trouble for the last 4 years. How will you ensure the department gets fixed during your term? And we'll start with, Ms. Snyder.
Yes, we have managed to turn around the deficit into a surplus. We have, identified problems and, we need to raise revenues and curb our spending. We are aware of the previous problems and we are implementing consultants to fix our back office operating problems and also build the city finance personal morale. Right now, we have a big healthy reserve. So we are really for moving forward in the next 4 years, we are healthy financially. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu.
Outdated financial management software and rapid staff turnover have stalled projects, lead to missed opportunities. And the problem with our city's finance report. We must fast track digital upgrade to improve government efficiency and transparency. Additionally, recruiting and stabilizing our finance team by providing the right tools, proper training, and empower them with the trust and respect they deserve to do their professional job is the key. By taking these steps, we can secure long-term financial stability of our city.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you. So when it comes to finance, the financial responsibility of our council representing our city, like most things, I'm going to say tonight, it starts with transparency. We don't have a program like an open gov, something where we can see what's happening financially throughout our city throughout the course of the year. We can't just budget within the short window of budget season. It's something that we should be doing throughout the entire fiscal year. So that's one thing that would be very beneficial, improving the transparency. The second thing would be defining a clear financial process. So what that means is submitting a request would pass through the finance committee, let's say, they exceeded a certain dollar amount by which they would provide their approval. So when it comes to council, there's recommendations on top of the request that align with the community values and community ideas. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Rossi.
Sure, thank you. So the city's financial problems actually go back about 7 years. And it started with the gutting of the finance department, the hiring of an inexperienced finance director, and a complete disregard actually for timely reporting, inaccurate reporting. The city's gone for 7 years without monthly or quarterly financial statements. 7 years. And I want everybody to think about that if you accept that from your bank statements or from any other financial organization. So in March of February this year, they reported a $3.7 million deficit. When pressed for actual financials, and it turned out that we actually had a surplus. Problem was they didn't actually have present us the financials. When I asked for them, they said it would take too much work and they had really pushed against it. So our biggest financial issue is that we actually don't know what our financial position is. We don't know the strength of our reserves. And this is something that I pushed to bring in an outside firm, the audit wing, which is what we currently have right now, to help fix up the financial systems and the problems. And one thing we can't accept anymore is saying that it's okay to not have accurate financials.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Thank you. Okay, let's jump into one of these more controversial things. What is your position on Measure SP? And we'll start with Mr. Lu.
Yes, I support Measure SP. We have opportunity to make housing more affordable in our city, Pasadena. Measure SP can help us achieve that goal. Measure SP will give us the ability to meet state housing mandates. Well, we still maintain local control. By preserving the single-family neighborhood and concentrate the new development in the commercial area, the small business. Yeah, we can preserve our small charm while make it possible future improvements. This high limit will also boost our local business. We can have more sustainable and responsible development space for future children.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
I gotta remember this on, not waste my time. So as far as Measure SP, but one thing about Measure SP is that we are uncertain as to what the outcome of that measure will be. It will either pass or it will fail. And ultimately the work starts for implementing whatever that outcome is. Now, we should be engaging with the community to define what we're gonna do in the event of it passing or in the event of it not passing. That way we can have a clear, actionable pathway forward, regardless of what the voters end up choosing. So I think that it's important that we, again, I hate to be repetitive, but engage with the community and use this community strength to build out a solution that's gonna work for the residents of South Pasadena.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi?
Thank you. So again, Measure SP is a result of the settlement agreement that came out of city's misconduct, not responding to public records requests and not having the housing element, but it was really the public records request because that's what made the organization decide to make an example out of South Pasadena. We know that we have to build 2,067 units. We know that this ballot measure is coming on and we need to make, it's looking at it to concentrate development on Mission Street, Barrows, Huntington Drive, and Ostrich Park. What's not clear to me is how it intends to do so. The city states the goal is to target the limit and limit the height limit at higher levels in certain zones, but it doesn't explain how. And I think one of the biggest issues that I have to talk about, and I'm still very confused on, is the tenants. There's mass concern that there will be mass evictions, and that's something that the city talks about on the website is that they put it into the housing element, but they haven't implemented it. And it's not clear to me why they haven't implemented it. I think if they've done some of those actions beforehand and actually put it into a community beforehand to bring that measure, make us comfortable, we actually would be able to be on board.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder?
As part of the city council that approved the language and the verbiage of SP, I'm advised by our city attorney not to comment one way or another. We are prohibited from advocating. And also, even if I comment as an individual, as mayor, I will be perceived to reflect the position of the city. So right now, I am not commenting on either for or against that.
Thank you. Okay, kind of going along with economic development, things like that. What is your feeling about the big chain stores versus small businesses in South Pasadena? And we'll start with Mr. Ferguson.
I realize that the growth of large corporate entities is a financial, it's something that's inevitability, economic reality. But that said, South Pasadena is a city that's built on its unique character. It's literally written on the wall in our vision statement. So I think it's very important that we keep that in mind as we look to and build things within our community. I think that's
Okay, Ms. Rossi?
So I mean, I think we need to have both. Big chain stores bring anchor, or oftentimes considered anchor stores. And if you take a look at the development over, it used to be the Vons, now the Trader Joe's. I think that's an excellent example of great business planning. You've got a mix of local small businesses, which we actually need to do more to support and look to how we can help them. But you also have Trader Joe's, which is a large chain upstairs, and that's actually what will be driving a lot of the traffic. I'm now finding myself going to that location every day, actually just because of Club Pilates. And realizing now I'm using the dog food, the, pet store and everything else, and I think I'll be doing all my shopping there, which I didn't used to for 17 years. So I think we have to understand that we need to have a combination of both kinds of businesses, but we actually also really need to shore up our support for small businesses, which actually bear the burden of a lot of expenses and challenges in the community.
Thank you. Ms. Nymer?
Yes, I'm all for small businesses in our city. That makes our city magical. It keeps the small town character intact. And while I admit that this corporate chains will inject a lot of revenues, but through the pandemic, we supported the small businesses and we thrived. And I'm so proud that the Chamber of Commerce had actually worked so hard for the businesses to thrive, and the city has implemented, or we have an economic development ad hoc committee, which myself and Councilmember Braun are members, and we hope that with repositioning of senior leadership, we will attract new businesses, small mom and pop businesses.
Thank you.
I like.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
Yeah, I think we should have both. Particularly, we have those large chain stores and bring us revenue and become an anchor property owner. We also need strong support of local business. That's what makes South Latin special. Which as city council member, I will drive the support, more incentive to lower the barrier, to help the local entrepreneurs to start, maintain, and run their small business successfully.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I have a couple questions here about climate change. This one, the year 2023 was the hottest on Earth in recorded human history. The last 9 years hold that record due to climate change. How would you like the city to respond to climate change? And we'll start with Ms. Rossi.
Sure, so I think the city actually means this is an issue that we can't solve by ourselves. And it's one of the things on my platform that this is where we need to do a lot more regional cooperation, working with the city and the counties and other organizations to see how we can address this. And there are multiple ways that we can look at it, from expanding bike lanes locally, improving our public transit, and increasing EV stations. But on a regional level, I think we also need to address something which is shipping. And how do we bring more jobs into our region and reduce the amount of shipping that creates a lot of emissions that across actually Southern California, the shipping docks. I'd like to see a little bit more cooperation going on there and see what we can do. And even things like paving our streets, right? Paving our streets would be something that would help the emissions. But we do need to take it seriously and start looking for how we can do a better job to address this issue.
Thank you. Ms. Nymer?
Yes, we are first in the nation to implement a all police electric vehicle. We are an example, and we're doing to contribute to climate change. So that reduces the carbon footprint. And we have our city is a walkable, and we encourage bicyclists and also walking. We have programs now that's going to be implemented in the next month or two about street coming on Fair Oaks, Fremont, Meridian, and Huntington Drive. So also as a city, Tree City USA, our canopy, urban canopy, and our trees also help with the climate action plan. And we pride ourselves with, sustainability, walkability, and a safer street for everyone in our,
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
Yes, climate change mainly because we are too dependent on the fossil fuel. There are four methods we can try to improve. First, we try to use green energy instead of fossil fuels. Then we can try to car EV, we have more infrastructure, EV is making more convenient for the residents. Second, we promote multimodal transportation, like bike lane or walking, make our street bike friendly and walk friendly. Third one is we try to improve our public transit, make it safe and easy to use. The last one is we try to improve our tree planting. This will help us improve our situation or defend against climate change.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson?
Hi, so having worked in the utility sector, I've built power plants that were for green energy, as wind power, so hydroelectric power as well. One of the things that's important about climate change is that we have responsible leadership, that we're able to be dynamic as the environmental needs change. And so part of that leadership is being able to identify projects and how they impact the community, being able to execute them effectively. As mentioned, the collaboration and regional collaboration is extremely important. Climate change is something that's an international problem. We can't expect to solve an international problem locally by ourselves. So it's important that we have regional alignment. Also, it's also important that we have design that takes climate responsibility into mind. And so that's making streets and neighborhoods compatible with people walking and using multimodal transportation. So it's important that we look at climate change as a holistic issue and not something that's singular. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a couple people have mentioned bike lanes. And the question is, some residents are concerned that bike lanes and street safety measures are being prioritized in single-family neighborhoods. How will you ensure that everyone will benefit from the new bike and safety infrastructure? And we'll start with Ms. Znaimer.
Right now, we have a master bike plan. We plan to amend that and implement it along with, in conjunction with the repairs of our streets. And it benefits not only the safety of the children, it actually is a health issue. The kids, like the bike bus, the kids are able to bike to and from school. And these will really improve the health and well-being of our children. We are not looking for like the past 50 years, but we are handing our legacy to the future children and the future generation to come. So the bike lanes for me, the multimodal form of transportation benefits everybody. And
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
Definitely for sustainable future, definitely a better bike infrastructure. How can we get where we are right now to the future? We need a master bike plan from the whole city, not only one part of the city. We need to bring together all the stakeholders, not only the bikers, not only the pedestrians or the single-family neighborhood. We also need to consider the drivers. When we put mix that all stakeholders together, we can get a better plan. That's the way to move forward. Instead of top-down approach, we should talk with the residents, all the stakeholders to connect what they really want. Everyone wants safety, what safety means for each role in this system. We should connect and work back to plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson?
I would like to see bike lanes as part of not necessarily just a bicycle plan, but that there being a cohesive transportation plan for the city. I think that things should start from a point of being very open as far as the information and transparency. That way there can be open discussions that define what a standard looks like for our streets in the city. So then when we're actually building bicycle lanes, we're executing a standard, not necessarily doing a one-off or something that's just within a specific zone. And I think that that's an important step as far as having community engagement, building out a mechanism and process by which we can have multimodal transportation existing collectively with other systems in the city.
Thank you. And Ms. Rossi?
So yes, I mean, we had, well, one of the master bike plan that's being in progress, but also we had a consulting firm tool come 2 years ago and have a charrettes, that brought in the community to talk about the roads, and they're supposed to be bringing them back. So what I'd like to see is that plan brought back to the community so that we can now move forward. I think there's some frustration that we had a lot of plans to nowhere. And that plan was supposed to be considering citywide. So of course, I think, bike lanes have to be considered citywide, not just for single family communities. We also can't have bike lanes to nowhere. We need to make sure that they're part of the infrastructure system. And then we're able to get, like right now we have a bike lane that goes to El Centro and then it stops at Arroyo. So how do we get it to continue on and be able to safely get people across and into the Arroyo? But on the subject of safety, safety has to come first, and we have to get serious about safety. Our children's lives, our adult lives have to actually be the priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, here's another one that comes kind of back to the economic development. What will you do to streamline processes to help businesses open more quickly in South Pasadena? And we'll start with Mr. Liu.
Yes, definitely support the small business and work ready to get their project, get the permit fast. One of the reason is we need to update our infrastructure so we can automate the process, make streamline, so we can get the process online without human delay, without human errors. That's one thing. Second thing, we stabilize our team, so there's no turnover in our planning or building permit organization. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Person.
One of the, as far as streamlining the business process, I find that it's been my experience that most times you need to have a process happen more quickly, you front load it. And so what I would mean by that is having first the information widely available on our website for new businesses, where they have a clear indication as to what the process is. They know they have who to contact in case there's problems from which they need to reach out to. And then they have an anticipated timeline, so they know how long it can take, or it's supposed to take right up front. So that way they can manage their expectations throughout the process and cycle. And then we've created a process for them to provide feedback on how it's going so we can improve in the future. So that's more or less how I would approach it.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi.
So yes, my platform of community-centered services comes actually from healthcare and patient-centered services. And the idea that we're supposed to base our services around the needs of our community, and in this case, businesses. When we're looking at our business, and I think this is a culture issue, when we're looking at businesses, I think having an understanding that small businesses in particular, they are putting up their life savings to start this business. And then what we need to be doing is making sure that we are helping them through the permitting process as fast as possible, so that they can get their businesses up and running, and so that we can have thriving businesses throughout the city. And then this expands out to not just small businesses, but to larger businesses and to our development projects. So we need to work through the planning department to ensure that we're actually working on how do we do the streamlining, what's holding it up. And I'm not, some of it might be technological, some of it may not, some of it just might be a cultural issue of realizing that this is just the way we've always done things. Maybe there are some things that we need to not do anymore, and maybe there are processes that we need to change.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Mr. Ferguson, you mentioned something about the technology and getting better technology. And one of the questions here is, how can the city council help embrace technology innovation and also bring tech businesses to our city?
Well, that's a good one. I think that one of the things that would be incredibly beneficial, as I mentioned earlier, was having a city standard for what our streets in our streets. Because I believe that should include things like communication conduits for future fiber optic connections. That way, when businesses or technology companies want to do business in South Pasadena, there is already the infrastructure to support that happening. As technology is always gonna be dynamic, it's always gonna be changing, so it's important that we as a community create the processes by which business or individuals can identify their needs and communicate them to the city, and that the city can then execute them in a reasonable amount of time.
Thank you, and I want to apologize, I didn't give you a chance to answer the last question. So, yeah, before we go on with the technology, streamlining business, new businesses, I apologize.
Right now, the city actually is, having, the software already, the permitting process. It's gonna, go live, in the next, couple months. So we have been working on it for, 2 years now, and we have a dedicated IT, director that oversees all the technology. So we are, forward, moving, city, and also our, finance department, that's also being, technologically, advanced, procedures and operating, policies, so that the day-to-day duties will be handled by IT. So that also streamlines everything. And, when it comes to the streets, we have.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go back to the question that, Mr. Ferguson always answered is, how do you see ways of, bringing more tech business to South Pasadena? Embracing more technology in general?
Embracing more technology, we're bringing more technology.
The question says both.
So I think as far as attracting technology and helping actually maybe help organizations or small startups, you know, we have opportunities in our libraries and creating innovation hubs. We have an immense amount of talent in this community. I think people would be surprised how much we do. And how many innovators that are here. So I think if we could create innovation hub and bring together a lot of those minds to help startups and what they could share with people would be awesome. I also think, yes, having an infrastructure for technology is a way to bring in, and when we're looking to build, is looking at flex spaces that allow for more people to come together as we're moving towards remote work type situations.
Okay, thank you. Is Snyder attracting more technology?
Actually, our library is very technological advanced. And also our city is embracing and, engaging, especially our water, sewage and streets. When there's a water break, everything is fast because of our technology, our advanced technology. So we as a city have already started to embrace and implementing all the IT that's needed for, our daily services for our city.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
Yes, myself, come to South Korea 25 years ago, joined a local high-tech startup. That's exactly the technology business we want to attract. We need more, but there are a few ways we can attract more technology. First, we want to educate our children. We have more entrepreneurship in terms of technology. Second, we try to collaborate with university, for example, Caltech or USC, so they know we have the space, we have the infrastructure. When their students want to build a company, they can think about us. The third one is our city need to simplify the process. We get more incentive to attract those early stage startups. Eventually they will grow and be successful and contribute to local economy. Particularly the startup I worked for 5 years later, they were public. The office was small and didn't have nothing. However, this indicates our city has the infrastructure. We can make great successful stuff.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Like most cities, South Pasadena is always looking for new sources of revenue. What will you do to increase our city's revenue? We'll start with Ms. Rossi.
So can I get a clarification? Are you talking about the city revenues as in the city of South, the city organization, or are you talking about revenues within amongst businesses.
I think they intended it to be the city revenue itself.
Okay, so I mean, I think that one of the things that's interesting about the city revenue question is I've seen a lot of focus in the finance commission on increasing revenues through rate increases. And I think one of the things we need to do is actually look for how we can drive more efficiencies. Our city is actually fairly burdened right now with taxes and rates. And so I think we need to come in with a much more sharp approach to that and understand that there are a lot of people, they can't afford that extra $60 a month in a tax increase or a rate increase. And it actually may pull them out of, not just out of South Pasadena, but out of their homes. So I'd like to see that our first approach isn't looking at how do we just increase revenues, but what are we doing to address costs? And then as far as revenues, it comes towards what we're going to be doing as far as the development and looking for development impact fees and making sure that we're attracting great businesses and building a community.
Thank you. Ms. Znaimer?
Yes, we've been amending our master fees that, usually they update every 5 years. We have plans for the renovation of our golf course. Particularly, at the moment, we have, that, golf course, makes about 600,000 a year net to us. So after the renovation, we anticipate that the golf range, the banquet room, the golf shop and the miniature golf will bring a lot of revenues to the city. And there are other projects that the city is involved in.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
And that's increase our revenue source will bring a lot of opportunity to grow our city. One way is before we upgrade our facility, for example, our golf course, and that is more revenue to the city. Other way to attract more innovative firms, they have larger revenue, we can continue to grow our city.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Ferguson?
So as far as increasing revenues, I think one of the first things to do is make sure that we are reducing costs as much as we can through optimization of our processes. Beyond that, we should be looking at avenues which we can pull in revenue, such as grants. There's oftentimes the city has had the opportunity to apply for grants, some of which have slipped through our fingers because we didn't get the paperwork process in time. So doing a better job of that as a city, I think, would be tremendously important. Another thing is that we should ask and engage in the community. The community likely has several ideas as far as ways that we can increase revenue. So communicating the needs to our community and receiving their responses. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is something like street damage restoration fees. I've asked about those in public works. That's when a street needs to be cut, especially after being paved. The city has a mechanism, other municipalities do it. We can pull back the cost to damage from what's been damaged to the street right off the bat. And the last thing is having creative programs. So I want to do with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see, do you support rent control in South Pasadena? Explain the basis for your answer. We'll start with Ms. Znaimer.
We are embarking a rent stabilization ordinance, and we're working on it this year. Also, we need to help our renters because 50% of our population consists of renters, and they are an important segment to our community. And so rent control is favorable to a certain degree, and they are also protected by state laws. There's hundreds of state laws that helps the renters, but our city should take the lead and help the renters. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Liu, rent control?
Yes, 50%, over 50% of revenue for renter, definitely will consider helping our renter. However, rent control is a costly approach for our small city. There are many other ways to help our renters that other renters stability and ordinance or some other ways. I prefer both that route.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, as a landlord or housing provider, I think I'm not sure what term to use sometimes, but I believe that rent control or rent stabilization is something that should actually be viewed as like, as community preservation in a sense. Renters, just as homeowners, are members of our community. And as a council person or even a member of the public, I believe that we should embrace all members of our community equally. And so, one thing that I would also push for too is that we as a community define our local tenant protections, because I believe that that's where we're gonna get our strongest and best representation of how to do it adequately.
Thank you, Ms. Rossi.
Ditto. No, okay, so this, so we actually, sorry. So look, and one of the things with Measure SP and what we're seeing as far as the housing element and the state mandates is that we actually need to make sure that we have an affordable housing stock and we need to protect that affordable housing stock. If we don't do that, we're going to continue seeing added density to our next housing element. One of the ways to address this, and this is one where we're all gonna have to kind of bear the burden of the increased housing, is that we look at what we can do for regulations regarding short-term rentals, such as Airbnbs, corporate ownership of rental properties, and then looking at rent control as well to make sure that it makes sense. A lot of what the renters dealt with this last year was the inflation and having 8% increases for 2 years. We were close to 20% rent increases. We have to figure out what is something that's reasonable, that supports, you know, both the people who have property owners in multi-family units, but also make sure that it supports our renters.
Thank you, thank you. And then this is a kind of a follow-on. It says, if Measure SP passes, how will you protect renters from being displaced? And we'll start with Mr. Liu.
Yeah, Measure SP is a good way for the future. However, I realize there are many renters have concern when their housing or under development, they will be displaced. There will be disruption. I think this is something the city staff should find a way out. Not against this measure, it's a part of the improvement of this measure. Measure SP is the right direction. There are many details. We can figure out how can we accommodate those renters who are affected by those developments. That's something we can find a solution.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ferguson.
I said a lot of what I would want to say to this answer, but what I would like to point out is that Measure SP doesn't dictate whether we can or can't do something for tenants or renters. That work can start now. We don't have to wait till we have the city for Measure SP to promote something. There is what we would consider naturally occurring affordable housing within the city. We could always strengthen the programs around ensuring that that's available. Additionally, we should also consider that in creating policy around housing, a lot of times we're focused on ways in which we can be punitive towards people that are behaving poorly, which there are some pretty bad landlords out there. But I also think that we need to be focusing on policies that reward positive behavior or positive action by landlords. Kind of like what I try to do with my kids, you know, positive reinforcement. So I would love to see more of our focus and our community attention directed in that direction.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi?
So yes, so this issue is, I mean, it's one of my main hesitations on Measure SP, the fact that this wasn't addressed, even though it was the housing element, it wasn't implemented. You know, Measure SP is complex and has left residents with concerns and fears. And so like I've spent the last several months meeting with both proponents and opponents of Measure in an effort to get the answers and better understand the technical details to prepare for what comes next. Next council will be seated after the measure is voted upon. And so I think what we really need to be doing is focusing on moving rapidly and transparently to implement the stated goals. And one of the stated goals is supposed to be for tenant protection, in congruence with the verbal assurances made by the city's leadership to the public. And if it doesn't pass, I need to work rapidly and transparently to engage the community in new housing development process to avoid builder zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Nymer?
Yes, the Measure SP, the city council is prepared to tackle whichever is the outcome for or against. We have 9 months to to do something. If it fails and if it passes, then we have that mechanism. And actually, local control is injected into the verbiage so that the city council actually would have control. And we do have to have an input from the residents. So it's gonna be a collaboration between the residents and the city council to comply with state.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. This is kind of a little bit related, but it talks about the increased population, if, you know, Measure SP passes, and it says with prospective increase in population, where will you get increased water supply? Mr. Ferguson?
The water system is a very complex mechanism. I come from a background of working for public utilities, so I've been trying not to get into the weeds of engineering to talk about where our water is going to come from. The reality is that we can get through conservation. That's probably the most direct way of increasing water. We can also increase like the size of pipes in which connect utilities. One of the best ways that that's going to happen as it relates to Measure SP or for rapid growth in development is finding a way to couple that cost with the new construction that's happening. So that way our infrastructure can keep up with those demands. So I think that would probably be the best way to go about it. I mean, we can look at doing water reuse and capture systems. I don't want to push folks.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi?
So I'm not a public works engineer or water specialist, so I don't have the answers to where we would get our water supplies. I think it's one of the questions that we do have. We do have a bond out for the water supply or for our water infrastructure, so we need to make sure that that is, we get working on our water infrastructure. I agree with the reclaiming water and looking at those sources as well. But I think then working with the people in the water district and region to have a better understanding of how we supply for that, making sure it's part of our developer impact fees and what we're doing to do the planning for that. So yes, I'd like to know myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeniber.
Yes, our forefathers had a forethought of acquiring pumping rights. We have 4 wells, water wells, and right now we are able to sell that to other cities. So conservation of water, reclamation, and dirty water, processing it to become a potable water. It is in the works, and our city has one of the best potable waters there is in the county of Los Angeles. So I'm really proud of it. And with the increase of population, we can outsource, grants like the Measure W, infuse grants to our water system so that we can rebuild according to the needs of our people.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
There are multiple ways we can improve our water use. Then the more people first, we can improve our water conservation method. Second, we can process the water to reuse multiple use of clean water. Third, there are many new technology coming. We can convert the water in ocean to drinkable water in relatively lower cost. This is coming. I think when we have more people, we have more revenue, we have more resource to drink more water.
Thank you. And kind of as another follow on, I saw that there had been a poll that had gone around the city. I don't know if it was a newspaper, but it talked about people's concerns. And one of the big concerns was infrastructure in general, not just water, but roads, things like that. And so, what do you think is the major concern in the area of infrastructure in South Pasadena, and how would you propose to deal with it? And we'll start with Ms. Rossi.
So sure, we have a lot of infrastructure projects and actually quite a backlog. And as a vice chair of the Finance Commission this past year, we had the capital improvements project plan come to us and question about how we prioritize. We had spent $60 million in the budget last year, but we only spent $2.6 million. And one question I asked was, what are we gonna do to actually change that for next year? Because you're asking again for the same $16 million. How are we gonna be more effective in prioritizing? I asked the public works director to go ahead and put together a matrix that looked at what were critical needs, what were needs that if we didn't start putting the funding to use right away, we would lose that funding. To help us start prioritizing, we need to get moving on our projects. And yes, absolutely, our roads, water, sewage, they all kind of go together. And so we need to consider that, in more of what holistically makes sense, what's critical.
Ms. Znaimer.
We have already a plan, 5 to 10 year plan, and it implements, the replacement of, and maintenance of roads, sidewalks, in conjunction to replacement of water and sewer pipes. And also, in conjunction with that is, building of the ADA compliant intersections. So, with the CIP, the capital improvement projects, we have a 16 million grant. I know that we only spent 2.6 million, but that is coming from the general fund, so we have to leverage that and use other funds like Measure M or not Measure R, so that we don't have to use our general fund. So infrastructure, yes, we have aging buildings and that has to be fixed. We have an aging library. We have plans to redevelop.
Thank you. Mr. Lu?
One of the top concerns I heard from that, traffic safety and the improvement on the local infrastructure. Especially our state. That means making sure that our city is doing the basic, fixing the sidewalks, the roads, fixing the potholes. And making sure that our facilities are safe and well maintained. But also the large plans like one in proposed in different stage of right now, like Spring Avenue, Hunting Drive, those plans from Mayor M and Mayor R. We are seeking to enhance those corridors to reduce the traffic congestion and improve the safety for all type of transportation modes.
Thank you. And Mr. Ferguson?
As the current chair of the Public Works Commission, one of the things that I've talked about repeatedly is the ways in which we go about communicating our delivery of projects. Knowing how many projects we have to do is one thing, knowing how much money we're going to spend is another thing, but being able to communicate that to the public is extremely important, especially given the magnitude and the severity of our road problems. Our streets probably need repair. What I've always one of the things I talked about a lot tonight is having community defined standards for our streets. And why that to me is super important is that as we create multiple modes of transportation and create multiple pathways for our roads to be utilized, it will extend the life of our roads, right? And so if we're not able to clearly define a standard for what we want, it's impossible for us to rebuild, we can just rebuild or we can rebuild sustainably. And I want to make sure that we're building things in a way that's sustainable and provides for the future. So.
Thank you. There has been a question. People would like to know, have you personally complied with the campaign donation limits? And I think we'll have Ms. Znaimer start.
Yes, I haven't started the my fundraising, so I've complied with my the BBC rules of donation. I'm not aware that you can have more than, there's a cap of not more than $1,000 per individual donation or contribution. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm good. I haven't started my fundraising yet.
Thank you, Mr. Lu.
Yes, I think I'm fully compliant with FTC rules. I have 70 donors over equal under $1,000. I report the FTC report on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
Absolutely. This is a very grassroots campaign. Absolutely. My wife and I joke we call this a grass seeds campaign because the roots are growing. But absolutely. Can I just ask next level at a time? It's absolutely necessary that we do follow it because that's what preserves our democracy. right? And so I think that I shouldn't close out that answer, I still have a full minute, so I. Sorry.
Ms. Rossi?
As far as I know, we have, I've asked my treasurer, who's out in the front row, but I know somebody did send an accidentally extra and we returned the money to them. But in addition to that, I've also refused funds from SCE and the Realtors Association. And I have not taken funds from outside organizations outside of Planned Parenthood. Thank you. Including other PACs.
And as a little follow-up to that, will you recuse yourself from any decisions that involve people or businesses that have donated to your campaign? And we'll start with Mr. Lu.
Yes, for sure, I will follow that if I land with myself. So far, I don't think any of my donors have contact or been in contact in talk with the company.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
Absolutely, again. I would also encourage that any council person or our council, look into developing and signing a code of conduct ethics agreement that ensures that we don't do. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Rossi.
Absolutely, I'm more than happy to. I agree with Mr. Ferguson that we need to have code of ethics and we actually need to be much stronger on what we have as far as conflicts of interest. I do believe there are some conflicts of interest that I've seen over the years that have been disturbing to me. But I also would like to talk about external funding that comes from political action committees, because that doesn't necessarily mean a direct funding that goes to your campaign, but you can be influenced because they're receiving funds and then helping with your campaign in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you, and Ms. Reimer.
Well, in 2020, I made a policy not to accept any donation from businesses. I realized that there's gonna be a conflict of interest and I don't wanna be beholden to any of the businesses that does business in the city. So I would avoid conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. This is kind of on a different topic, but in what ways can you as a city council contribute to improving our education system? I mean, obviously the education system is run by the school board, but is there a way that the city council can or should be involved in the schools? And we'll start with Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, in short. One of the things that I talked about in my platform is having the vehicle chargers for the police EV fleet distributed at our local schools. I think that it's important as a city that we promote safety through creative means. Also, I think it's important that we bridge with the schools play such a huge role. You know, my wife and I bought our home to move here because of our schools. And so they play such a huge role in what draws people into our community. So it seems to me like it's just clear common sense to do as much as I can as a council person to support those schools in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi?
We too moved here because of the schools and recognize that because of our strong education system here, our property taxes are 30% higher than our neighbors. And one of the organizations that does that is South Pasadena Education Foundation. I was disappointed to see this last year when the city went to actually raise rates on the South Pasadena Education Foundation just a month before Party Draw. We need to have partnerships with our schools. We need to be working with them to help improve our community for our students as well. I'd like to see our teen center revamped and actually bring in a lot more mental health services and what we can be doing for our students who are what they're falling out through the cracks and not necessarily being caught in the school system. So I'd like to see a much stronger partnership between the city and the school district moving forward. COVID did real damage on children. Anybody who has teens or young children knows that. And I'd like to see us work to do more for them. Thank you.
Ms. Reimer?
Yes, it has to be a two-way street. In the last 3 years, I've been a liaison to the school district and the city council, and the city. And we've always maintained that communication. So, to begin with is the city shouldered all the expenses for crossing guards for the safety of our children. And also we've bridged the program of mental wellness to high school kids. And I've spoken to high school clubs and we need to listen to them. Especially in the, during the pandemic, there's been a systemic, problems, of mental health. So, bridging the gap between schools and our city, is very helpful to our children.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
Yes, I think two ways we can help the school. One is we will enhance the health safety around the school. The second is the good partnership with school, so our kids can know better about careers. One particular example is our police officer, firefighter can show up in the school and teach our kids what to live like, real life career as a police officer or firefighter. This will plant the seed for to seal our future workforce in our city staff.
Thank you. Also, that part of the survey that I read, that I mentioned previously, there were a number of people that expressed concerns about the process with the whole 710 freeway process. And so I'd like to ask how you feel if the process is going as well as it should be, or how would you improve the process? And then we'll start with Ms. Rossi.
So much of 710 negotiations have been done in closed session because they are real estate related negotiations. So I'm not sure a lot of the details there since they've been in special session. I do know that a lot of realtors were upset back in June when the houses went onto the market before they were supposed to for MLS, and there was a feeling of concern that they were pocket listings. So like this is a lot. I said we have a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of interest, and I think we need to do our utmost to ensure that there's transparency in this process and make sure people know what's going on. I do prefer the idea of selling it, and I think it just passed actually, to be able to sell the homes at market rate. But I also want to make sure that in units where there are existing tenants, that they also receive, that they get the follow through they were promised on. And I think I've heard from some residents that there's some concerns on some of the units.
Thank you, Ms. Nyman.
Yes, one of the things that resulted, as a result of not, the Caltrans not being able to build the 710 freeway is their properties. So far, we are in South Pasadena, we have 68 properties, and we are so pleased to announce, that we have successfully, purchased, the 5 historic, unoccupied homes. So there will be a press release for that, and we are working on the remaining properties. And we are mindful of the 3+1. That means when we sell a house, we have to build 3 affordable houses. So that's in the works, and we hope that everybody can participate.
Thank you, Mr. Liu.
House and home will bring new opportunity to improve our affordable housing. We need to build a more transparent process and broadcast information more timely. Many people want the information they cannot access. That's the first thing. Second thing, for the tenant, you are protected. You will not be displaced because of this process. There are many misinformation out there. The third, if your neighbor have an empty property, the renovation of that property will be follow the historic housing guideline. It will not be turned into a multi-unit or a high rise. It will be not like the house of the neighbors. Overall, I think it's an opportunity for us to develop better use of the permanent house properties and improve our affordable housing.
Thank you, and Mr. Ferguson.
In response to the 710 freeway, I'd like to start by not referring to these as Caltrans homes, but referring to them as South Pasadena homes, because they're part of our city, and we take units of. A lot of the conversations that have happened around these properties, and members of our community live have been in closed session. So as a person who is not an incumbent, it's hard for me to get into some of those details. That said, anything that we do regarding dispossession of these properties should definitely be in alignment with state law. And lastly, to my main campaign platforms that I'm being very repetitive about is responsive leadership. And this is a great opportunity for there to be responsive leadership. Have the forums, engage with the community, talk about where we're at, talk about where we're going, allow the community to participate in this process.
Thank you. Okay, here's something else. Do you believe the South Pasadena City Council should take a position on national or international issues, or should the city council concern itself only with issues directly affecting the city of South Pasadena? And we'll start with Ms. Anira.
I do believe that, our city has no business in interfering with, international, war conflicts but we need to focus on the business, the local businesses that impact our community. So, as much as there's a big, hoopla about, because, you know, to me, that is, out of our, control, that's federal issues. We need to focus on our, local business matters. And, I do not support any, involvement, by our city with international, conflicts.
Mr. Liu.
I think the city council should focus on local issues.
Thank you, Mr. Person.
I believe that South Pasadena decision making should, be first focused on the needs of South Pasadena. That said, we are a community of a very diverse community here. And I think that having conversations around something isn't the same thing as passing policy about something. And so I think there is an opportunity when we have contentious issues, social issues, that the council provides leadership and provides an opportunity for the community to discuss how they feel about these issues. So that way people are heard and we go from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Rossi?
So yes, I believe that our first focus should absolutely be local issues. However, the city did pass an ordinance or a resolution about Ukraine. So one of the things that we need to do is start being consistent in what we do. So we decided that it's okay to pass a resolution about Ukraine, and we decided it's okay to pass a resolution about other national issues. We need to then be open to hearing things coming up internationally, or we need to make a decision and say no more resolution impacting international issues. As one of the few Middle Eastern people in this community, hearing something referred to as hoopla at a time when a lot of people are actually fearful about an outbreak of war throughout the region, and their community members who are deeply concerned about family, I think we need to consider what our sensitivity is. One of the challenges I saw back in June was a missed opportunity for discussion. I saw people on both sides of the issue that I cared about deeply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think this will be the last question. What do you feel is the most under-addressed issue in South Pasadena? And how would you remedy it? And we'll start with Mr. Liu.
It's a very hard question. Right? Do a study about the issue, all the issues that we discussed again and again and again for particular tax issue. That's my first priority. Have been discussed over a decade. Nothing happened. I think the main issue here is implementation, getting things done.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson.
I think one of the issues that I haven't heard talked about, and I'm thinking about it in terms of the surveys that I've seen, just the responses and some of the results that we've heard about tonight. I don't hear us talking a lot about how our city's gonna age in place. As a person who is starting to see my parents get older, it's something that I'm very mindful of as far as like how the services in their community are responding to their changing needs. And I would love to see more of those conversations happening in our town.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rossi.
So he stole mine this morning. So no, look, we have an aging population, and that goes for the entire nation. We need to start considering how to make sure that people are able to age in place and stay independent as long as possible, because that's key and critical to longevity. So we need to look at what are we doing as far as planning is concerned. Are we bringing healthcare services into as we build these developments and whatnot? Are we bringing healthcare services closer and making sure that even like the sidewalk issues that people aren't tripping and breaking their hip, because that can actually take somebody out within months. We need to really be considering, and then I look at from a healthcare perspective, social determinants of health, aging in place is one of them, but thinking through the lens of how do we create healthy populations through our planning process and make sure people have great health outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, and Ms. Zimmer.
We actually have, a proposed building of, 52 units on Mount and, El Centro, and it's for, senior affordable housing. So we have already started, and that will be implemented or a start break ground in January 2025. So, and also we have a great, senior center, and, we have great staff. I love serving meals with our senior center. They actually are very engaged and, accepting, that we age, we need to also have a social engagement with, building a center that has a collaboration between, the teenage population and the elderly. So it's, we are hoping that our library that's being renovated, to the state of the art.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are now done with the question portion, and we're gonna do the closing statements, and we'll be doing them in reverse order. So Mr. Liu, your 1 minute closing.
I'm a builder, not a talker. I believe in finding common ground and creating positive change. Throughout my life, I've demonstrated my ability to lead organizations, drive economic transformation, and unite people around shared goals. That's exactly the field our city needs right now. I deeply respect the contributions of all the leaders who served the city before me. Feel we have long-standing challenges in front of us, from traffic and public safety to outdated infrastructure, the balance between development and preservation. We need a leadership that can bring our community together to solve those issues. Let's make policy together and let's create a safer, more vibrant and diverse South Korea. And we Party Group have the honor to burn your votes. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Chamber of Commerce, and the WISNA for hope, and everyone here tonight for your commitment to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Zimmer.
As your mayor, I want to continue to serve, our community, that is dear to my heart. As a council member for District 1, I humbly request your vote for November 5, 2024. I am a proven leader. I'm, a woman of, less words, but I'm a doer. And that I can lead our cities into making significant improvements, not only into our infrastructure, but also, improve our, climate action, program, and also, provide our city with safe water. And also provide our city with, safe streets and, multimodal, transportation that is safe for everyone. And, we are moving towards the 21st century, and I would like, to grow with you, to a more sustainable and walkable and environmentally friendly, city.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters, WISPA, and Chamber of Commerce, and to all of you actually for being here tonight. The choices we make today will impact South Pasadena for generations to come. We can choose a path forward that embraces sustainable growth, transparency, and community engagement. I'm running because I believe we can protect what makes the city unique while ensuring it thrives in the years ahead. With your support, I'll work to bring transparency and accountability to City Hall, prioritize the needs of our residents, and build a more inclusive and resilient South Pasadena. Together, we can create a city that not only preserves its charm, but also meets the needs of every resident. We can grow together. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ferguson.
Since I'm running for office, I have to say, I'm glad to save the rest for last. I look forward to expanding my service to our community through responsive leadership, executing the delivery of resilient infrastructure, and nurturing community. The diversity of our community, my district, it's a very rich tapestry, and it's woven from the threads of our individual stories and identities. Together, we form something that is truly special. And I look forward to using my skills in detailed analysis, transparency, consensus building, process development to help preserve what makes South Pasadena unique while allowing for thoughtful, sustainable growth. As a parent, it's important to me that as my little M, L, and Eve over there grow up here and your loved ones, that this community remains the wonderful place that our family calls home. I'm committed to ensuring that South Pasadena continues to thrive, protecting its character, and creating a future we can all be proud of. Together, we can build a city that works for everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Closing, I'd like to say to everyone, thank you for taking the time to be part of this forum. As I stated at the beginning, the League's voter service goal is to promote and inform and involve the electorate. So hopefully tonight we have helped to make you more informed, but now it's your turn to be involved. So make sure that you participate in our democracy by casting your vote on or before November 5th. For more information about the election and to find your personal ballot and all kinds of stuff, we have a flyer out there that has codes that you can scan to go to the LA County Registrar, the state of California, League of Women Voters, all kinds of places to get voter information. And also we have a lot of these out there. These are our voter guides. They have information on all 10 of the California propositions, the 3 county measures. Also some information about some of the judges. No one always asks about judges, and that's in here, and also information about the district attorney's race. So those are out front also. So just in closing, remember that the world is run by people who show up. So thank you and good night.
And please, the decorum in this room was very impressive. And there were a few cutouts that were hard to contain, but the League of Women Voters provided the format to allow this to happen. We should all be very proud of how many people came here tonight and the quality of our candidates. I'm just very proud to live in South Pasadena. I'm so proud of all of you. Especially of the chamber. Thank you so much for doing this together. Now the candidates will be outside. If you'd like to speak to them after, we are going to close up we have to close up the room. But I encourage you to speak to them, contact them later. I know you're all vote. And so thank you for coming.